Hi guys, so we're all familiar with the Eurosceptics of this world on the right, the Jacob Rees-Moggs, the Boris Johnsons, the Nigel Farages. And unfortunately, they engage in a logical fallacy called whataboutism. Now, unfortunately, on the left as well, you will find Eurosceptics, and they will also engage in whataboutism. Now, I'm going to introduce you to one in a moment. His name is Mick Wallace. He's from Ireland. Now, what is a whataboutism? So it's the technique or practice of responding to an accusation or difficult question by making a counter-accusation or raising a different issue. You've probably encountered this in your life where you meet someone, you introduce the topic of, for example, asylum seekers. We need to look after asylum seekers. And their response is, well, what about our own people? Shouldn't we be looking after them first? Or what about homeless people? Or what about child poverty? It's an attempt to distract. It's an attempt to redirect the conversation away from the core issue, the issue that you raised. Unfortunately, it works from time to time. Now, I want to show you this speech by Mick Wallace, who's a member of the European Parliament, on China and how we should be treating China differently.
China is a normal country that has worked miracles for its people inside the framework of the global capitalist system. And China is a capitalist country as well. They have just completed the greatest poverty reduction programme in human history, while homelessness in the West is at a record-breaking proportion.
Now, what he's doing here is he's saying, look, China have done a great job. What about us? We haven't done such a great job when it comes to China. This is in regards to criticism of China as a country or Chinese policies, both domestic and foreign.
China is a world leader on climate change mitigation strategies. China has had one of the best COVID strategies on earth, at home and in helping others.
And that's fine. We should work with China on issues such as climate change and COVID, because these are issues that affect all of us around the world.
China is building all kinds of infrastructure and public services projects that we can only dream about here. These issues are some of the stated central concerns of the strategy. It's not blindingly obvious that the 1.4 billion people of the nearly 6,000-year-old country that has managed to surpass the global north in nearly every index of human progress, while not invading or bombing or sanctioning any countries to death.
Okay, so we're getting into a bit of a strange territory here. So you can't say that China have not done something bad in the world. If you look at places such as Tibet, if you look at places such as Hong Kong and Taiwan, I think the people of those areas would disagree with you.
May have something to teach us. Maybe we could learn something from them. Why are we choosing an aggressive position with China?
See, this is the problem. We can work with China in the same way as we can work with Russia. We can work with Saudi Arabia. We can even work with North Korea when it comes to issues such as climate change or COVID, because, as I said, these are issues that affect the planet as a whole. When it comes to issues such as human rights, should we just stand by and allow Saudi Arabia, Russia, Belarus, North Korea and China to do what they want? Should we not consider human rights an issue that needs to be pressed in these countries? You know, progress is taking place in China. I think most people, when it comes to climate change and COVID, I think most people agree with you there. I think it's going to be you're going to find it quite difficult to find people around who say that China is not making progress on climate change. You know, we can argue some of the details, but I think on the whole, they are leading the charge in a sense. But when it comes to issues such as human rights, why should we not be challenging these countries? China, Saudi Arabia, North Korea, Russia, Belarus, for example. Why should they be given carte blanche here?
Why are we not choosing cooperation instead of aggression?
But we are choosing cooperation on issues that we can cooperate on. Like, if a country is abusing its people, what sort of cooperation are you? Should we just say, well, you're abusing your people, we're abusing our people, so we should just let bygones be bygones? I don't understand what is wrong with holding China, for example, in this case, to account on human rights. Why do you have a problem with that, Mick?
Why are we not respecting the principle of state sovereignty and non-interference?
Because when countries abuse their own people, we should have a problem with that. If the Irish state was abusing Mick's human rights, would he like the British, or would he like the French, or would he like the Germans to intervene and do something about it? Or would he just say, I'm sorry, the Irish government should be allowed to do what the hell it wants to me because, well, I don't want our sovereignty to be affected, or I don't want international bodies putting pressure on Ireland to treat me better?
We should be working for peace with China.
What do you mean? What do you mean by peace with China? Are we at war with China? I don't think we're at war with China. What do you mean by peace?
It's in our interest. But you know what? I can't help feeling that we're being led along by the nose by the Americans, who have a vested interest in challenging China at the moment. Not because China is a threat to the security of the American people, because it isn't, but
in a sense, China is a growing superpower. The United States is a superpower. I'm not a fan of superpowers, okay? But you have to admit that if there is a growing superpower, it is threatening. But I don't know how you define threatening, but I would say it's threatening the United States' position in the world. Now, that can be justified, or it may not be justified. But there is a threat to the US's position. And we can agree or disagree whether the United States is right to attempt to defend that position. I'm not talking about militarily, I'm just talking about economically, socially, in a sense, politically.
China is a threat to their financial supremacy. We're not going to compete with them for financial supremacy. We need to work with them and have a positive relationship with them and cop onto ourselves.
Look, there's no problem with working with China when it comes to issues on climate change, COVID, the environment, whatever. But when it comes to issues of human rights, we have particular standards that I think should be maintained. They haven't the same standards. So morally, we should put pressure not just on China, but on Russia, but on Belarus, on North Korea, and any country where we have some sort of influence. We should exert that pressure in order for them to come up to our standards. Now, if you think our standards are problematic, then we need to sort that out first, perhaps. I think I would agree with Mick on many things. Homelessness is something that is unacceptable. But it doesn't mean that if we have homeless problems, we shouldn't put pressure on a country like China, which is oppressing its people. We can't just sit by and say, well, because we don't live in a perfect world, we shouldn't do anything. Now, maybe I'm getting the wrong end of the stick here. Maybe Mick is right. I'd love to know your comments in the comments section. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?